speaker today is Alysse Adularia. Okay. Alysse's passion for writing began at 12 with her first subscription to Writer's Digest, a magazine many of us devour and learn from every month, and learn she did. Okay? Her writing was praised through high school. Then her studies at UC Berkeley introduced her to all the ways communication needs to flow to be effective. So she earned a degree in rhetoric from UC Berkeley. She is the author of I Wish You'd Tell Me Answers to the Question, What Can I Say to Help When the One You Love Has Bipolar Disorder? This is a guide for caregivers. Okay. This morning, Alysse wants us to hear the sounds of writing that create music in the reader's ears and to impart the tools that make that happen. The title of her presentation is Wake Up Your Writing. Please welcome Alysse.
High school and college. Okay, thank you all for coming. Thank you to the board, those that powers that be, for giving me the opportunity to talk to you. I'm going to be reading, unfortunately, much of this presentation because it's heavily dependent on quotes and precise language. When I talk about Wake Up Your Writing, I'm talking about using sound. I'm going to read a couple of poems. I want you to listen to them. Closing your eyes if you're comfortable is a great way.
Alysse and Bonnie. I don't know if anybody can hear me, but the Zoom people have no audio. Sorry to butt in, but the Zoom people have had no audio for this presentation.
Hear me now? I think it's turned, she said they turned it off.
We can hear you now. We heard nothing until now. Thank you.
Okay, you can hear me? I have to speak into that. I hate that. I'm sorry you missed the poems. So we're talking about the sound of writing and how it elevates your writing. Your readers are listening. So I chose Adularia as my surname. It is the name of a rock. This is an Adularia stone ring. And I looked into whether there was a name of a rock that sounded good with my name. My full name is Alysse Elaine Adularia, for the sound of it. You want to know what's considered the best sounding name in the English language? Cellar door. It's really two words, but it's spoken as one. It's really, well, I often wondered why. Never looked it up before, but I looked it up for you, researched it. The earliest mention of the words beauty was in 1903, novel G-Boy by a Shakespeare scholar by the name of Cyrus Loren Hooper. It helped that J.J.R. Tolkien voted for it too. Here's what I found out. Cellar door has liquid and nasal sounds, I, R, along with soft consonants. Some scholars associate the romantic qualities of other languages. Mark Twain said the difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between lightning and the lightning bug. See? Depended on precise reading. Is it worth it then to search for the right word or the best way to frame a phrase when your books are already selling? Self-publishing aside. Think about how many queries you sent before your manuscript was accepted and how large the publisher was. Readers want to enjoy the ride no matter what you're writing. Rhetorical devices fall into three categories: sound related, order related, and meaning related. There are a lot of them. I'm going to concentrate on the ones most related to sound. The specific terms aren't important to remember unless you want to impress someone. Google any of them and you'll get a flood of examples. Let's get into some of them. You probably all know alliteration, right? Okay. It adds a beat, like a drum. It's about character, not charisma, commitment, not currency. My Cadillac was completely crushed in a car crash. Our financial future fell into free fall. The auditory beat also gives impact, and it's more memorable. Shakespeare, for example, these are but wild and whirling words, my love, my lord. James Joyce, his soul swooned slowly as he heard the snow falling faintly. Joni Mitchell, they paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Do you hear the beat with the alliteration? Then there's assonance, which is repeating words with the same vowel sounds within them. Robert Louis Stevenson, in The Feast of Famine, describes the crumbling thundering of seas. James Joyce in Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, soft language issued from their spitless lips as they swished in low circles round and round the field, winding hither and thither through the weeds. And Annie Dillard, this is the wrong place for my eyeglass. Annie Dillard, Holy the Firm. The spider skins lie on their sides, translucent and ragged, their legs drawing in knots. Pretty. Consonants is repeating consonants at the beginning, middle, or end of a sentence. He stood on the road and cried. He thrusts his fists against the posts and still insists he sees the ghosts. We talked about names earlier and the sound of names for men, women, and cowboys. Think of creating names for your characters with alliteration, for example. King Kong, Lex Luthor, and Lois Lane. Severus Snape. Bilbo Baggins. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Mickey Mouse, Peter Pan, and Porky Pig. The next term we're going to talk about is homoteleuton. This is where there are similar sounding endings to adjacent or parallel words, also referred to as literary rhyme. Shakespeare in Two Gentlemen of Verona. My mother weeping, my father wailing, my sister crying, our maid howling, our cat wringing her hands. This is from Linton Weeks describing the Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld. Water would be great if anybody has water. He would clap his hands, lick his lips, narrow his eyes into squinty gaze, and extemporize, patronize, chastise, sermonize, and crack wise all at the same time. See how it becomes memorable? William Somerset Maugham in the Summing Up says, I must aim at lucidity, simplicity, and euphony. Onomatopoeia. This is when the sound of a word mimics the thing described. In the Weary Blues, oh, thank you. In the Weary Blues, Hughes describes thump, thump, thump went his foots on the floor. Snap, crackle, pop, Rice Krispies. Disney's Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So I'll give you some more examples. Boom, buzz, thud, clack, moan, roar, honk, hoot, growl, sigh, gurgle, screech, yowl, creak, grunt, crash, fizz. You could use this device in creating a character's name that conveys something of their personality or occupation, for example. Flutterman, a man who can't commit to anything. A door-to-door salesman named Mr. Collingsworth. A teacher named Ms. Yondale. Officer Twang from South Carolina. Cousin Dullard. Okay, those are the sound related rhetorical devices. Now let's talk about the order related rhetorical devices, starting with anastrophe. That's when the usual order of a sentence is inverted. Yoda talks this way. The greatest teacher failure is. But you remember it. The flow of the sentence is interrupted, like I said, and that breaks the rhythm. And that's what calls attention to it, makes it memorable. By comparison, the following devices add rhythm and emphasis. Anaphora, repeating a word or words at the beginning of clauses or sentences. For instance, John F. Kennedy's "Ask not what you can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." Charles Dickens, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times." Abraham Lincoln, in his Gettysburg Address, "We cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow." Martin Luther King said, "So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania." You feel that beat, right? Epistrophe. That's repeating a word or word at the end of a clause or sentence instead of the beginning. For instance, the Breakfast Club. "Don't you ever talk about my friends. You don't know any of my friends. You don't look at any of my friends, and you certainly wouldn't condescend to speak to any of my friends." John Steinbeck, in The Grapes of Wrath, "The big sycamore by the creek was gone. The willow tangle was gone. The little enclave of untrodden bluegrass was gone. The clump of dogwood in the little rise across the creek, now that too was gone." Boy, that kind of chokes me up. JFK said, "For no government is better than the men who compose it, and I want the best, and we need the best, and we deserve the best." That's actually both epistrophe and the first one, anaphora. Antithesis, you know that, right? This is putting strong, contrasting ideas in juxtaposition. Gady, "Love is an ideal thing, marriage a real thing." Abraham Lincoln, "Folks who have no vices have very few virtues." Shakespeare, "Give every man thy ear, but few thy voice." And I'll give you Benjamin Franklin, "Be slow in choosing, but slower in changing." There's a reason why these quotes are famous. It's not the fame of the person, it's the fame of their writing. A syndeton is using punctuation instead of conjunctions like and or. Toni Morrison in Beloved, "Definitions belong to the definers, not the defined." William Goldberg in Lord of the Flies, "We saw no houses, no smoke, no footprints, no boats, no people." Imagine if it was, "We saw no houses and no smoke and no footprints and no boats and no people." Sort of loses its impact, right? Shakespeare's Hamlet, "Where be your gibes now, your gambols, your songs?" You ready for another one? Polysyndeton, where a series of words are linked by the same conjunction, like and or. The Wizard of Oz, "Lions and tigers and bears, oh my." The Postal Service, "Neither snow nor rain nor heat nor gloom of night stays these couriers." Jane Austen in Pride and Prejudice, "Mrs. Hurst and her sister allowed it to be so, but still they admired her and liked her and pronounced her to be a sweet girl and one whom they would not object to know more of." Charles Dickens in A Tale of Two Cities, "Jerry stood aiming at the prisoner the berry breath of a whet he had taken as he came along and discharging it to mingle with the waves of other beer and gin and tea and coffee and whatnot that flowed. These go pretty fast. Okay, you're going to have lots of times for questions, hard to imagine. Parallel phrases. I am sure most of you already know what this is and uses it. It's using identical grammatical structures as another way of adding rhythm. There's the rule of three, which is customary and comfortable, but you can vary parallel phrases for different effects. If you add a fourth clause to increase emphasis. We went to the beach, we collected shells, we soaked up the sun, and we met two gorgeous co-eds. Longer lists carry a different, heavier emphasis. Hey, tonight's dinner isn't takeout. I did the shopping, I cut the tomatoes, I chopped the garlic, I cooked the pasta, I shredded the cheese, and I stirred it for an hour. I don't care if you don't like it, eat it anyway. I wrote that one. My mom wrote that. Yeah. And then consider the rhythm of how you order parallel phrases. Ascending syllables, for example. What kind of dinner do you want? Steak, pizza, hamburgers? Also, look at the length of phrases, going short to long, and ordering them by importance. The bottom line is to go back and listen to your sentences. Should I break up the sentence? Should I use conjunctions or commas? Can I write the sentence using parallel clauses? And if so, which order of the clauses? I've been in critique groups a long time, and something I see perhaps more than anything else is using and. The other mistake is, and some people do this, they write short sentences, but there's a downbeat. My cowboy was my friend. When we saw each other, we dined. When we dined, we talked about current events. I'm making this up as I go along, by the way. You see how those short sentences end in a downbeat? I knew a award-winning Western writer who was in my critique group, and he did this all the time, these short sentences. And I told him I was praying for a conjunction, which eventually he put a couple in there. But are you familiar? Have you read authors? So it's all about listening. The more you are aware of rhetorical devices, the more they will become part of your own voice. I don't care much for rap music, but I know it's created by using the kind of rhetorical devices I just talked about. That went pretty fast. Any questions? That's a lot of words. Yes?
How can we get a copy, because it was impossible to take notes?
Well, I have a handout, which is going to give you the names and definitions. I didn't want to pass it out at the beginning and get you all scared. In fact, I can start that right now. Yes, Bonnie.
Oh, well, reading out loud is so important to me.
It is.
And I feel like my writing can become musical if I read it out loud. And so that's, I think, what you're referring to.
Right, I read in my head, but also reading out loud. And when you read other books, have you really listened to the writing, or do you go through the meaning? Yes?
Two questions. One of them, particularly the items toward the end. Just the short.
Right,
paragraph
those,
phrase, I mean, a lot of those things, the conjunctions, the lack of conjunctions.
right.
If I ran those sentences through co-writing or one of the other writing assistance things, they would be highlighting those every time as being wrong.
Yep.
Trust yourself.
And
I'm not big on,
that's sort of what I was going to ask. You know,
oh,
once I
sorry.
once I get to an editor,
The,
they also tend to not look at the sound as much as to look at proper writing.
shame on them. The gentleman asked, sorry, I forgot this. The gentleman asked about, or talked about using electronic grammatic and writing aids, and they picked that up. I'm not big on the electronics, changing our writing. For one thing, the grammar program that I no longer use, it picks up all kinds of words and phrases and sentences grammatically that I intended to do. When I was in the rhetoric department, we talk about the English department. The English department was all about rules and form, right? In the rhetoric department, it was about what works.
Okay, then my second question goes back to the very beginning.
Uh-huh.
The adjectives and descriptive.
Oh, thank you.
My second question goes back to the very beginning of your presentation. Adding all the descriptors is something I like to do as well.
Good for you.
Unfortunately, the editors say no more than 90,000 words or no more than 110,000 words. You can keep those descriptors, but you've got to get rid of some of the substance. And fortunately, in my first novel, they gave me more words. They allowed me more words, but
Because you write so well.
but they also said when the sequel comes out, they want it no more than 110,000 words. And, there's a trade-off that comes in, particularly in a mystery where you're trying to set up all these things and then obviously get through it. So how do you be
do
true to
that?
myself doesn't quite work because I have to send out 60 more query letters to find
Sure.
a different publisher.
Well, here's another way to look at it. Genres and publishers have word counts. Can't do anything about that. But when you edit, keep the beautiful sounding phrases and descriptions, and then look for ways to trim. Take out some conjunctions. I do that all the time. And then listen to what's most important. I think good writing will outdo word count. But if you have to, you have to. But I look at that. You're all in critique groups. There's a lot of editing that can be done to take the words out. But don't take out the beautiful writing because it's elevated. Yes?
One word that a lot of writers use a lot, and I do, and it doesn't, it's the word that, T-H-O-T, that. Okay?
Yep.
When you go back through your manuscript, I think you can all hear me, right? When you go back through your manuscript, take that out. As many times as there are times when it just won't work to be taken out. You still need it. But a lot of us use, because we're trained that way. We grew up with grammar in grammar school and high school, and it's appropriate grammar, but they can go.
And we talk that way.
That,
That.
T-H-A-T, that.
And we talk that way. We talk that way. My novel is heavy on dialogue, so I use words that I would normally crop out, and that is one of them. I only use it if I have to. Other words like just, and the adverbs, the ly words. Look at ways to rephrase your sentence to avoid that. Often it's, if it's a tagline, he roared. Look at ways to change your sentence and use an action. He threw out his hand and roared. I do a lot better writing when I'm sitting down, so I apologize for that. But you get the idea. You can replace taglines with actions. Yes.
One of the things that I try to look for in my writing is how to bring the reader closer to me as
Yes.
a writer. And so if you have a sentence that says, she walked outside and noticed the fresh air, you can cut that way back.
And it would be.
Outside, the air was much fresher.
Yes.
You don't have
Yes.
to say she did this. You can cut a lot of that out. So,
I use and very sparingly. It does help with some of the clauses and for the impact and this and this and this. So sometimes it's better, sometimes it's not. But don't use a lot of them. Don't use two in a sentence if you can possibly help it. Sometimes you got to break up the sentence, but I try and avoid two ands in a sentence like it's a disease. Other comments, questions? Let's start back in the back.
Yeah, this actually isn't a question. When going to name someone or giving them a last name or first name, please avoid something that's not easily read. When I have to think of how do I pronounce that name, it's like it takes me out of the story completely. And finally, I just shorten it to like be said as opposed to be or really, or you know what I'm saying? Is just be aware of
That's
not
a good point.
using names that are the reader isn't acquainted with, so they have to think about how to pronounce it.
How many of you sit and linger over what to name your character? All the time, right? You need to think of a lot of things. Is it appropriate to the period of the book? Is it appropriate to the character's personality like we read? Another question here?
You were talking about electronics. I think I use the read back or feature, the read aloud feature in Word for editing.
Is it the one in Word?
I use the one in Word now. I didn't used to because it was very monotone, but it's much
It
better
is.
now than it used to be. That's the good side of AI. The bad side is that I feel like I'm fighting with Word because they're telling me every other thing.
Yes.
They're underlined or misspelled. Or,
There is great value in reading your things out loud.
when I read it out loud, I read it like I think I wrote it.
Yep.
Whereas when electronically it's read to me, they don't insert the word that I skipped. It reads word for word to me. You know, I don't read it out loud to myself word
Though
for
it
word.
lacks music. So also, I read in my head. Am I the only one? I read out loud in my head as I'm very slow
I do too,
reader.
but again, I read in my head what I thought I wrote. Not
Yes, I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying what that doesn't do is give you insight into the rhythm and the musical quality of your writing.
There's a great book by Noah Lukeman called The First 5 Pages. And he has a whole chapter on
I have that book.
what he calls sound edits.
There you go.
Yeah.
Aristotle, old guy, way back, centuries and centuries, 17,000 years before the printing press. So a lot of these, the terms, not so important unless you're presenting them or you want to impress somebody. But these devices have been around forever. Back then, it was geared towards speaking because people weren't writing books and couldn't read. So if you do dip your toe into the text, it's really centered around speaking. The other half of the book is about logic. I happen to love how logic works, but it's not as fitting to this crowd. I did put, I didn't mention, I put some of the meaning-related rhetorical devices there. I think most of them are familiar to you. but I put them down there. They don't have as much to do with sound. Anybody else? It was that good, huh? A lot to learn. When I was in the department, you could actually get a degree in rhetoric, which is pretty rare. But we had the rhetoric of poetry, the rhetoric of the courtroom, the rhetoric of oral tradition, the rhetoric of the Bible, the rhetoric of novels. These were my classes. Yeah, it was a fascinating journey, fascinating journey. And they're all different because they're focusing on, if you watch Law and Order, you probably get a hint at the rhetoric of the courtroom. The rhetoric of oral tradition was fascinating. And the way they did the class is the professor read a joke. And he said, I'm going to ask a different one of you to tell that joke at each class. And we watched how it changed and could analyze that. It was fascinating with oral tradition and how it changes. Yes?
So I think of the definition, look, if you just say rhetoric, I think of babble.
Yeah, it's got a
Rhetoric, I
bad
think of
rap.
babble. So I'm amused at, because that's what I thought
It's
when
a
you said you got your
science.
degree in rhetoric. I was like, right
yeah,
on.
Yeah.
So I'm amused by what you defined it as throughout your
What it
lesson
truly
today.
is.
Yeah. So when you say the babble of like a legal process or something, I'm just interested. Could you give us a couple of examples of one of each, maybe 3 different ones? Because again, I'm thinking, oh yeah, legal babble. I can think of that, but that's not the right way to think of it. So can you help correct my understanding or polish my understanding? Or define rhetoric?
Rhetoric is the analysis and practice of the persuasive qualities of communication in all its forms. My definition, I like the way I condensed that. So, rhetoric is the analysis and practice of the persuasive qualities of communication in all its forms. I get dressed with rhetorical analysis. Who am I going to see? How are they going to see me? What do I want to project? All of that sort of goes into choosing an outfit. Does anybody else do that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, good.
Of everything.
Right. It all has meaning. Getting back to the courtroom, it starts with the rhetoric of jury selection. Okay, how do you pick a jury? And then the rhetoric of the courtroom is on the logic side of rhetoric. It is how you construct an argument, a Schenectady, an enthymeme. It has a long list of words too. So that's how lawyers make their argument. They want to be persuasive. And that's where those tools come in.
And then also the word rhetorical.
Rhetorical.
Usually, being a play on that, usually is like, I'm not really asking for an answer. This is just
Rhetorical
an example.
question.
Right.
Yes. As a word, it has a bad rap. And a lot of people think of politics, that's just rhetoric. It saddens me, and it gets in the way of getting a job. Because on your resume, I graduated from Berkeley in rhetoric.
Yeah, it makes Berkeley look real good too.
You have to know Berkeley's a plus, but you have to know what rhetoric is about to really appreciate that. I think it should come out of the ivory towers and into high school. They used to do things like high school. Also, the way you use your voice is rhetorical. In the rhetoric of poetry, we stood up, and part of that was the way we delivered a poem and its effect on meaning.
So it truly is. You put the word persuasion in your
Persuasion.
definition. So it really is when you hear somebody inspirational and they've just about sung whatever their lecture was to you or whatever, you know, like you really
memorable.
Yeah, it's memorable. You felt it. It hit you a certain place, your heart, your soul, you know.
Right.
So yeah, it's beautiful. This was a great lesson. Thank you for this.
Oh, I
today.
so appreciate it. You have a lot of famous speakers use these very well. I read from JFK, Martin Luther King, Shakespeare, other great speakers. They were in there. They were in there, and part of what makes them great is how they use language. And language and logic. I'm so glad to be able to share this because it's not a part of myself that's very glowing when you want to talk about, am I? I just have a passion for language, and I think it's the greatest. I started out as a not as a playwright. What do you call the department where you put on plays? I'm losing it. Drama. I majored in drama.
Rhetorical drama queen. No,
Well,
it all fits.
like I said, I've been writing and studying writing all my life. And the drama department I thought would be good support for my writing because you learned about character. But when I took a break, and when I came back to the university, I was a mother. And I couldn't do the drama department and do shows that were at night and so forth. So I scanned through and I chose rhetoric as a good background for my writing. And that, of course, was the most perfect.
I'm impressed. You're glowing.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all. Did everybody get a handout with those? If you want to impress somebody, use the terms.
You are totally right.
You are welcome. Did everybody get a handout, I was saying? Okay. Thank you very much.
Last chance to buy books. Some of them are disappearing right now.
Socrates, Aristotle and Socrates are not amongst the books.
Grapes of Wrath, you mentioned that. Yeah, it was there.
Grapes
It's
of-
gone now.
Yeah, but it wasn't written by Aristotle.
No, but you mentioned a quote by John Steinbeck.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Most of this, sadly, I pulled off the internet because I don't